Right now, inside the walls of the room you're sitting in, there are hundreds of gallons of highly pressurized water
Yep.
and explosive gases
Yeah.
and toxic waste.
Mm.
And all of it is just being held back by, a few millimeters of PVC and copper.
Which is pretty terrifying when you actually stop and think about it.
It really is. I mean, usually when we talk about plumbing, the context is pure panic, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's midnight, water is rapidly expanding across your bathroom floor, and you're just frantically scrolling on your phone looking for some kind of savior with a wrench.
Yeah, we treat it as a totally reactive utility. It's an infrastructure that's designed to be completely invisible.
Right.
So we basically take the immense physics and the engineering behind it entirely for granted, right up until the exact moment it fails.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to completely flip that perspective.
Right.
Welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to look way past the surface of those emergency midnight phone calls.
Right, we're going a lot deeper today.
We have a source document that is, on its face, just a profile and service breakdown of a specific local business. It's called Five Bros Plumbing, based in Riverview, Florida.
Yeah.
But instead of just, reading down a list of services, we're going to use this company as a case study.
Yeah.
We want to understand the hidden complexities, the fluid dynamics, and basically the whole life cycle of home infrastructure.
It's a great approach because looking at a comprehensive operational profile from an experienced company like this, it kind of provides a literal X-ray of a building.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, it maps out how a structure breathes and functions and survives over decades. And honestly, it also reveals the pretty brutal economic realities of running a localized trade business.
Okay, let's unpack this because before we even dissect the mechanical side of what they do, we need to establish the business environment they're operating in, right?
Definitely. The environment is key.
So, according to our source, Five Bros Plumbing is family-owned and operated. They're based in Riverview, but they serve the greater Tampa Bay area. And they emphasize competitive pricing, upfront estimates, and they have over 15 years of hands-on experience in the industry.
Which is a long time in that specific market.
It really is. They also state a core philosophy that they treat every customer, quote, like family. Now, I want to push back on this premise right away.
Sure.
Treating people like family is a great marketing slogan, obviously. But couldn't a local business survive 15 years just by buying out smaller competitors?
Or just by being the cheapest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just being the absolute cheapest option in town. Does longevity in a specific region like Tampa Bay actually equal quality? Like, hiring a plumber is a lot like finding a good mechanic. Trust is literally everything.
What's fascinating here is the actual economic reality of the local service sector. It operates very, very differently than tech or retail.
How so?
Well, when you operate in a localized geographic community for over a decade and a half, you are operating in an environment with an incredibly high cost of customer acquisition.
Oh, because there are only so many houses in one town.
Exactly. A plumbing company cannot survive 15 years on one-off cheap emergency calls where they do a terrible job.
Right, they'd run out of customers.
In the local trades, bad news travels at light speed. If a company consistently overcharges, or if, their repair bursts 3 weeks later,
Talk.
oh, the local community via neighborhood apps, social media, pure word of mouth, they will bankrupt that company.
The localized feedback loop is immediate.
It is entirely unforgiving. So surviving for 15 plus years in the Tampa Bay area, it literally proves a level of operational accountability.
Because marketing can only get you so far.
Right. A slick website can trick a homeowner into calling you once, but a family-owned business surviving that long means their business model relies heavily on the lifetime value of a customer.
Okay, so meaning repeat business.
Yes. It means a homeowner called them, say, 5 years ago to fix a running toilet. The technician was honest. The price was fair.
Yeah.
And so today, that exact same homeowner is calling them back to completely repipe their kitchen remodel.
Wow, yeah.
That longevity only exists when upfront estimates are mathematically accurate and the craftsmanship actually holds up over time. It's an operational necessity, not just some brochure cliche.
That economic survival mechanism makes perfect sense. I mean, you literally cannot hide bad plumbing in the same town for a decade and a half.
No, you can't.
The water will literally and figuratively find a way out. But that reputation, it's actually forged long before a homeowner ever moves in or ever even sees a pipe, right?
Oh, absolutely. It starts in the dirt.
Right. It starts underground
Yeah.
in a phase most people don't even know exists. If we look at the life cycle of a house through their service offerings, It begins with just an empty dirt lot.
The foundational infrastructure.
Yeah.
This encompasses underground plumbing.
Which is exactly.
That's the installation of the main water lines, the sewer lines, and drainage systems before the concrete slab of a house is even poured.
Okay, so the source outlines that they handle this underground phase, followed by something called first rough plumbing. And then later, second rough plumbing. To you, the listener, this might just sound like, industry jargon.
Sure.
But this is exactly like the circulatory system of a house. The rough-in phases are basically the arteries being laid down before the skin or the drywall goes up.
That's a really good way to look at it.
But I'm curious, why is it divided into a first and second rough? It makes you realize how staged and methodical this is, rather than just throwing pipes in a wall.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reviews the intense structural engineering behind what seems like just a simple plastic pipe.
Okay, lay it on me.
So the first rough happens in the dirt. You're laying out the primary sewer and drainage lines that will eventually be buried under tons of solid concrete.
Right.
And this requires flawless fluid dynamics, specifically regarding pitch. Plumbers have to calculate the exact slope of a pipe.
Wait, really? The exact slope? Why that specific measurement? Why not just angle it super steeply so everything rushes out really fast?
That's a super common misconception, actually, and it really highlights the physics they're managing here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If the pitch is too steep, the liquids will outrun the solids.
Oh, gross.
Exactly. It leaves the waste behind to dry out, which causes catastrophic clogs. But if the pitch is too flat,
Nothing moves at all.
right, nothing moves and water just pools. So the first rough requires calculating a perfect, and I mean perfect, 1/4 inch per foot slope.
A 1/4 inch per foot. That is incredibly precise.
Across the entire footprint of the house, while navigating around exactly where the concrete footers are going to be poured.
And if they miscalculate that slope by even a fraction of an inch.
The concrete is poured over it. It's locked in.
Oh, wow.
If the first rough fails, or if a joint isn't perfectly sealed and pressure tested beforehand, the only way to fix it later is to bring heavy machinery into a finished house.
You're kidding.
Nope. You literally have to jackhammer up the foundation. The financial liability of getting that first rough wrong is immense.
That puts a massive amount of pressure on that initial phase. So, okay, the dirt is perfectly trenched, the pipes are perfectly sloped, and the concrete slab is poured.
Yep.
Then the skeleton of the house goes up, the wooden framing, and that brings us to the second rough.
Right. So the second rough involves routing the localized water supply lines, the hot and cold pipes,
Okay.
and the vertical ventilation pipes. Those have to go through the wooden studs of the walls and the joists of the ceiling.
Before the drywall goes up.
Exactly. This happens before the insulation is packed in.
It's like wiring the nervous system of the house, but you're having to drill massive holes through the structural supports of the building to do it.
Which requires a very deep understanding of structural load limits.
Really? The plumber has to know that.
Absolutely. A plumber cannot just take a drill and hollow out a load-bearing beam just to fit a 3-inch drain pipe.
That makes sense. The house would literally collapse.
Right. They have to know exactly where and how much wood they can remove without compromising the architectural integrity of the house.
Wow.
Furthermore, the second rough is where they really have to manage water pressure and prevent things like water hammer.
Water hammer. What is that, like a loud banging sound pipes make when a valve is shut off quickly?
That's exactly it. To prevent that, they install specialized arrest doors, and they have to secure the pipes to the framing with really precise tension.
And the crazy thing is, at each of these isolated phases, the underground, the first rough, the second rough, an independent city or county inspector has to physically come out.
Oh, yeah. Nothing moves forward without the inspector.
They have to review the work, test the pressure, and legally sign off before the builder is even allowed to proceed to the next step.
Showing up with a wrench to fix a leak is one thing, But engineering a structure from the dirt up, calculating slope dynamics, navigating load-bearing architecture.
Passing sequential municipal inspections.
Right. It's an entirely different tier of logistical and technical capability.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because once those hidden structural necessities are safely tucked away behind the drywall, the narrative of a plumbing company's job just completely shifts.
It's a very dramatic shift.
The source highlights that Five Bros handles services on the absolute opposite ends of the spectrum. On one hand, we have the delicate, highly visible aesthetic finishes.
The trim work.
Right. But on the other hand, we have high-stakes, explosive utility connections.
Right, the juxtaposition between the trim work and the gas line installation, it's wild.
Let's look at the trim work first. This is the finished plumbing, the installation of the faucets, the toilets, the shower heads. To me, trim work is kind of like the jewelry of the house.
I like that, the user interface.
Exactly. It is the only part of this massive, high-pressure infrastructure that the homeowner actually physically touches.
And it has to look perfect.
Right. It has to act as a flawless bridge between heavy utility engineering and human aesthetics. It requires a really delicate touch. You can't just take a heavy steel pipe wrench and scratch a $2,000 brushed nickel bathtub fixture.
No, it requires meticulous cosmetic care. Caulking, leveling, it's highly detail-oriented finishing work.
But right next to that delicate work on their service list, they offer code-compliant gas pipe installation for homes and businesses.
Yeah.
The exact same team making sure your rain shower head is perfectly leveled and pretty is also handling the localized gas grid, which is literally piping combustible fuel into a residential space.
Yeah.
It's basically playing with fire, right?
This raises an important question for anyone evaluating a trades business. Just the sheer breadth of technical mastery required.
Yeah.
Because we tend to lump all pipes together in our heads, right? Assuming a pipe is a pipe.
Right. Water goes through one, gas goes through another.
But the physics, the materials, the regulatory compliance of gas piping, they are completely divorced from water plumbing.
Because you aren't just dealing with a different liquid, you're dealing with an invisible, volatile gas.
Exactly. The chemistry dictates the mechanics here. You cannot use standard copper pipes for natural gas in many jurisdictions.
Really? Why not?
Because natural gas contains trace amounts of hydrogen sulfide. And over time, that sulfur actually reacts with the copper.
Oh, wow. So it literally eats the pipe.
Yeah, it causes it to flake off on the inside. And then those flakes will travel through the line and totally clog the delicate valves inside your stove or your furnace.
So they have to use entirely different materials for gas.
They typically use black iron pipe,
Yeah.
which requires on-site threading machines.
Oh, they thread it themselves?
Right there on the job. And they use specialized joint compounds called pipe cope that actually resist chemical breakdown. Or they use specialized corrugated stainless steel tubing.
That's a completely different skill set.
And the testing standards are incredibly rigorous. Before a utility company will even unlock the gas meter to a house, the plumbing company has to cap the whole system.
Okay.
Then they fill it with compressed air, attach a highly sensitive pressure gauge, and prove to an inspector that the system holds that exact pressure.
Without dropping it all.
Right, without dropping a single PSI over a set period of time.
Because if a water pipe leaks behind your drywall, I mean, you get property damage. It's expensive. It causes mold. It's a massive headache. But if a black iron joint is threaded improperly and a gas line leaks behind your stove.
You have an immediate life-threatening explosion hazard.
Exactly.
By offering both the delicate user interface aesthetic of the trim work and the highly critical, highly volatile engineering of gas installation, Five Bros Plumbing is demonstrating incredible versatility.
They really are.
Their technicians have to operate with this dual brain approach. They must be detail-oriented aesthetic finishers in 1 hour and then rigorous, uncompromising safety engineers in the next.
And we haven't even touched on the water pipe main installation, which is another service they list.
Right, the mains.
That is the massive high-pressure artery connecting the entire house to the municipal water supply out at the street.
Which is a huge undertaking.
Yeah, that involves heavy excavation equipment, coordinating with city utility grids, and managing immense municipal water pressure before it ever even reaches the house.
It requires navigating buried electrical lines, fiber optic cables, and street-level infrastructure just to make the connection.
So what does this all mean? We've zoomed in on the specific microscopic mechanics of building. You know, the quarter-inch slope in the dirt, the structural stud drilling, the black iron threading.
Right.
Let's zoom out now and look at how these varied skills actually apply to the operational logistics of the company itself. Because the source lists that they handle new construction from the ground up.
Yeah.
They handle remodeling, which is completely reconfiguring the plumbing layout of older homes. And they offer general service and repair.
Emergency calls.
Right, dispatching technicians for fast fixes, for immediate leaks, clogs, broken fixtures. They're essentially acting as a cradle-to-grave doctor for your house.
They are covering the entire timeline of a building's life.
They birth the house in new construction, laying down the skeletal system. They give it a facelift 15 years later during a massive remodel. and they act as the ER surgeon during a midnight leak.
And from a purely business management perspective, we really shouldn't underestimate how incredibly difficult it is to scale and flex a company's operations to handle that wide of a spectrum.
Really? How so? Isn't it just a matter of, like, sending a guy in a truck to wherever the work is?
Not at all. The workflows are fundamentally opposed.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Macro projects like new home construction or a full-scale remodel require long-term predictive scheduling. You are committing a crew, specific heavy equipment, and a massive supply of materials to a single site for weeks or even months.
Oh, I see.
You're coordinating your timeline with electricians, HVAC technicians, county inspectors. The revenue is predictable, sure, but it ties up your resources completely.
Right. If your crew is crunching a new foundation, they can't just drop their shovels and leave.
Exactly. But on the completely opposite end of the logistical spectrum, emergency service and repair is entirely unpredictable and totally reactive.
A pipe bursts at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Right. A dispatcher receives a panicked call that a residential water heater has catastrophically failed and is flooding a garage. A fully stocked truck needs to be routed there immediately.
Which requires keeping guys on standby.
It requires maintaining a flexible fleet, carrying a massive inventory of random replacement parts on the vans, and utilizing rapid response triage.
It's essentially running two completely different business models under one roof.
It really is.
One is long-term multivariable project management, and the other is rapid response emergency dispatch.
And maintaining the flexibility to do both without one side cannibalizing the other is incredibly rare.
I can imagine.
It really reinforces the core ethos mentioned in the source material, delivering reliable quality. To be considered reliable by a general contractor means sticking to a strict 6-month architectural timeline.
Right.
But to be considered reliable by a terrified homeowner means showing up in under 2 hours with the correct replacement valve. Achieving both requires exceptional organizational discipline, from the dispatchers all the way down to the technicians.
As we've unpacked this profile of Five Bros Plumbing today, we've taken what initially looks like a standard kind of mundane list of services and used it to walk through the hidden, highly engineered architecture of the spaces we inhabit every single day.
We really have.
We started by looking at the brutal economics of local trades. We're a family-owned business in Riverview, Florida, only survives 15 years if their lifetime customer value outpaces the speed of local word of mouth.
Yeah.
We went underground to look at the exact fluid dynamics and financial risks of getting a quarter-inch pitch wrong before the concrete foundation pours.
Which is terrifying.
It is. And we examined the massive contrast in skill sets required to flawlessly caulk a bathtub fixture, while simultaneously understanding the chemical interaction between natural gas and copper piping.
The dual brain approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, we zoomed out to see the logistical nightmare of a company capable of managing both multi-month architectural builds and rapid response emergency triage.
It serves as a really powerful reminder that behind every sheet of drywall and under every concrete floorboard, there is a legacy of meticulous human labor, physics, and fluid dynamics that keeps our modern lives functioning safely and cleanly.
It really changes how you look at a simple faucet.
It does. But, before we wrap up, there's one final detail from the source material that I think is really worth reflecting on.
Yeah.
Especially given everything we've just discussed regarding local economics, immense liability, and community trust.
I'm intrigued. What did you find?
It's the contact information provided right at the bottom of the profile.
Okay.
The source lists their operational area, and then it provides an email address. But the email address isn't, info@5brosplumbing.com.
Right.
And it isn't a link to some automated corporate ticketing portal. The email address provided is miguel81696@gmail.com.
Wait, really? A personal Gmail address?
Yes. And I want you, the listener, to just pause and consider the contrast that represents in today's economy.
Wow, yeah.
We currently live in an era dominated by sterile corporate conglomerates. When something breaks in our lives, we are forced to navigate AI chatbots, automated ticketing systems, and faceless 1-800 numbers.
Where you're placed on hold just to speak to an outsourced dispatcher who doesn't even know what state you live in.
Exactly. The layers of corporate insulation are basically designed to keep the customer as far away from the actual decision makers as possible.
That is so true.
And yet, here you have a local business with over 15 years of hard-fought experience, a company handling massive foundational construction projects, navigating complex structural load codes, and literally installing explosive gas lines.
Yeah.
And their primary point of contact is a direct, unfiltered personal email address. If a homeowner has a problem or if a pipe they installed leaks, you are emailing a real human being directly.
There's zero corporate filter to hide behind.
Exactly. It signals a level of direct human accountability that is rapidly disappearing from the service economy.
That's a great point.
When you don't have a corporate portal to deflect unhappy customers, you have absolutely no choice but to stand behind the structural integrity of your work.
Wow.
It's a fascinating contrast to the way the modern world operates, and I think it invites all of us to reflect on what truly defines trusted service, accountability, and expertise in our own lives.